The Patriot Ordnance Factory P415 Edge is absolutely different than everything else on the market. And today we're going to cover everything about it that makes it different and makes it unique and is especially a premium AR. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go out on the range today, knock out a bunch of rounds through this rifle, shoot it, see how it functions, see how it shoots, see if it's flat, see how the trigger is and everything like that. We'll come back in, cover all the specs, and once I've covered all the specs for this, I'm going to bag this rifle. I'm going to shoot it for groups because they guarantee sub Moa accuracy, and if it can do it, I'll squeeze it out of it. I hope you guys see that on camera. There's like no recoil. This rifle is extremely flat shooting. Trigger itself is very, very easy to run fast. The rifle, you know, I'll say it's probably a little bit on the heavy side, which is kind of standard for your piston type stuff. However, at 7 pounds, it's still not a real heavy rifle. And, you know, it's not something I'm sitting here, I feel like I'm lugging around, you know, a log or something like that. It doesn't feel like that. It doesn't feel like, you know, like it's a cumbersome issue. But overall, the rifle is very, very easy to shoot. Having an ambi bullet release on a gun is a really nice feature to have, especially if you're somebody, let's say that you're a lefty and you shoot left-handed. That's a really nice thing to have on the gun for both sides. Ultimately, it's a nice feature to have. Now, if you're somebody that's shot a gun right-handed your whole life, you've never had that feature, you get used to not having it. But it's a nice feature to have on there, and especially like when I was shooting in the prone, or I'm going to shoot in the prone for shooting groups, I've noticed that when I've shot guns with that ambi bolt release on there, it's nice because I'm able to sit in the prone, load that magazine nice and easy, not have to bring this second hand back up that's also holding the butt of the gun and hit that release. So that's what I really find useful for myself. Now, for doing reloads, I don't find myself using that button to do it. I'm just, you know, hitting basically the pad on the left side of the gun with my thumb, which is standard for me. But again, like I said, in the prone position, that bolt release is a really nice feature. Got a couple more mags to run through this rifle here on the range at the very beginning. This thing is a flat out performer. It's shooting really great, easy to shoot, and honestly, full package deal. I mean, I absolutely love this rifle right now. I mean, really can't think of anything bad to say about it in all honesty. And it's just really fun to shoot this rifle because it runs and shoots so darn well. Trigger on it is fantastic, safety, you know, charging handle, ambi stuff on it, just a full package deal. So let's run these last couple of mags about it, go inside, cover all the specs. Now that we've shot this rifle, let's go over some of the finer features that make this thing truly unique compared to the majority of rifles on the market. If you were to take this rifle and compare it to something similar on the market that's already out there now, HK416. This is definitely modeled after it to some extent. However, this rifle is overbuilt and completely manufactured here in the United States by Patriot Ordnance Factory, or POF. With POF, what they've done with this rifle, we'll start here at the very top, is it has a 3-chamber muzzle brake on here. That is self-timing, so that's very similar to a lot of things that you're going to end up seeing on the market from your precision rifle market. And it's nice to see that too, because you're not going to have to take a crush washer, torque it, and get all that stuff right. It's a lot easier to get your muzzle brake timed, especially if you're switching it in and out between using a suppressor or not. With the barrel length on this, it's actually a 16.5-inch barrel. Again, this is a piston-driven gun. It has a 1 1/8 twist stainless steel barrel, which is a little different, what you'll see from some of the other manufacturers where they just use your standard chromoly, vanadium type barrels. But this one here, again, is stainless. It is nitrided as well. And then it has a 5-position adjustable gas block here up on the piston-driven system itself. So you can take it through a bunch of different settings for suppressed or non-suppressed and tune it ultimately to whatever ammo you decide to shoot out of this gun. The handguard here that you notice, it actually runs all the way through here, and it's almost like a monolithic design to where it comes back here on your upper receiver and then dovetails into the top of it. And the reason they had a dovetail is actually to make it a little bit more of a rigid system that also makes it very, let's say, hard use friendly. And then up here on the top too, there's actually screws that actually, let's say, index into here and keep it in place, and you're not gonna have any issues with this handguard moving itself. Up here on the barrel nut itself with this rifle, it's a heat sink barrel nut, which is a little bit different than what you see from the rest of the manufacturers in the market. It's also a little bit longer, which helps with rigidity on this rifle. In addition to that, it helps dissipate heat better. And with piston guns, they do get hot up here on the fore end a lot, but you're not gonna have that issue quite so much because it's gonna dissipate that heat a little bit better for you with this rifle. Now coming back, there's several features inside this rifle which we will get into, but let's cover everything on the outside before we go taking a look on the inside. Coming back here on the rear of the gun, the trigger in here is actually a trigger pack. It is POF's own design, own manufactured trigger. It's a 3.5 pound trigger, single stage, and it competes with everything else on the market. If you're familiar with Geisley, familiar with CMC, AR Gold, all those out there, it's a very, very good trigger. It's not something that I would pick up this rifle and say, hey, I need a new trigger in this, because I picked up Barrett rifles, picked up LWRC, I picked up ADM rifles and thought, don't like this trigger, I think I want to change it. This gun, not the case. The furniture you have on this gun is going to be your MFT stuff, so you have their minimalist stock, which I'm not a huge fan of, but the stock itself works just fine. There's no wobble or anything like that. 6-position, anti-cant buffer tube here on the rear, and then up here on your safety selector switch, it's not quite shortened here on your trigger finger side, which for myself, I'm not really noticing it getting in the way. I don't know whether that's because of the grip or whatever it might be, because on some weapons, when I do shoot a, let's say, not shortened, let's say left side shooter safety selector switch, it happens to actually come down and hit that index finger for me, and I'm not having that issue with this rifle, which is really nice to see. And what you'll notice too here on this lower receiver is they have a cutout here, or an index point for your trigger finger. And at first, when you look at this rifle and you see the marketing and things like that on the internet, I would almost think it's a gimmick. However, the minute that I put my hand on this gun, my trigger finger goes exactly in that index point. I don't have to find it. I don't find it slopping around on the left or the right or the top or the bottom. It just goes right in that spot. And with this billet receiver set, fit and finish, absolutely fantastic. There's no wibble or wobble in here whatsoever. And they actually have tensioning screws in here to keep that from doing that, in addition to being an overall very well-built rifle. Outside here also, ambi controls. With the ambi controls on here, ambi bolt release. Okay, so bolt release on both sides. You also have a magazine release on both sides. Now here on the very bottom of the rifle, inside the trigger guard, is actually a bolt catch. With that being said, it's very different from everything else you see on the market. Now, with that being said, I'm able to lock that bolt to the rear with that, as opposed to having to put my left hand on the left side of the gun, push that paddle and pull that charging hand to the rear, and then ultimately locking the bolt. I don't have to do that with this rifle. It's all one-handed. I don't have to take my trigger hand or gun hand off the rifle itself to accomplish that. And it's a really nice feature to have, especially if you're somebody that out there and you have malfunctions or whatever it might be. You will have issues. Shooting AR enough, you'll have an issue. A lot of times they're magazine related, which causes a double feed. And with that double feed, to clear those out, a lot of times you're having to drop the rifle down, hold it here, pull the charging handle. And with this rifle, I don't need to do that. I can literally just put my finger in here, barely touch that bolt lock, pull it back, and it locks the bolt. Very, very nice system and very smooth. And when we're talking about that bolt, fit and finish of it itself, I mean, it's really hard to describe on video, but it feels like it's on roller bearings. It's extremely smooth. It doesn't catch on anything. There's no grit or grime in there whatsoever. And it's a really, really nice feeling, because when you're charging people, let's say $2,200 almost for a rifle, it needs to be that good. And this rifle accomplishes that. I've picked up rifles that cost that much that don't feel like that. And when you pull that back in there and it hits the buffer tube and goes to the rear and you feel grit, for me, it just seems like one of those things that they left out of manufacturing. On this rifle, there is nothing that has been left out of manufacturing. Fit and finish is probably one of the nicest ARs I've ever picked up, and it feels fantastic. Charging handle here with this is really nice. I think they're calling it the Strike Eagle, which, kind of like Vortex optic, but again, it's an ambi style on here. You can pull it from both sides. It's smooth. Locking seems good, and it seems overbuilt like the rest of the rifle. And before we forget here, up here on your handguard, you do actually have QD sockets. You have them up here at the end of it, and you also have it back here closer to your receiver set. Very nice features on that, M-lock all the way across. The handguard size itself is a little bit on the fat side. I won't say it's fat like all the way around, more or less like a tall design. And I think a lot of that just has to do with the fact you have to fit that piston in there. So now that we've covered, let's say, everything on the outside of the rifle, let me break it down. We'll go inside of it and we'll talk about the bolt and the chamber design. As with any AR, the upper receiver set a lot of times is the heart of the rifle, and namely the bolt carrier group. With POF, their bolt carrier group is definitely different from the rest of the ones on the market. It has some similarities with LWRC as far as for the carrier key design on here, because it's actually machined or forged into the carrier itself. With that being said though, they do have a roller cam pin on here, which is something that they're touting as being very useful. With that being said, you're not going to have any issues with any binding or likely breaking that cam pin. Cam pins on your standard ARs, you get a ton of rounds through them and get a high round count. It's one of the first things that's going to fail on there. With theirs, it reduces a lot of friction because it's got a roller design and a ball bearing design that actually allows it to slide through the receiver much smoother, and you don't have all those friction points. So I think really, in my opinion, if you're going to build a rifle, take out any of those, to say, fail points and fix them. And that's something they've done with their bolt carrier design. The bolt carrier itself was phosphated, then MP3 coated, which makes it very slick. And machine-wise on here, there are no machining marks on this thing whatsoever. There's none on the outside, a little bit on the inside of the carrier itself, but you know, that's a point of reference on there that's not getting anything across it. It's not any friction or anything like that. POF does make some parts for the aftermarket that people can pick up, and the roller cam pin on here that they actually put in their rifles is something you can actually pick up and throw it in any bolt carrier group that's out there on the market. In addition to that, they obviously also sell their trigger packs, which come on the lower receiver that they make. Again, I stress that it's a fantastic trigger, but you also get K&S anti-walk pins on here and a system on there, so you don't have to worry about those trigger pins coming out of the gun whatsoever. And then getting to the lower receiver some more is with that anti-can or anti-tilt buffer tube on here. It's actually overextended, not in a bad way that you're gonna have issues, but it actually comes out past your buffer retaining pin and actually assists this bolt carrier group going into the buffer tube and makes it a lot smoother, almost like a feed ramp on a pistol. And going into things that they're looking into and trying to improve upon an age-old design with the AR-15 and making it just a little bit better is something that I could really appreciate, because really, when you're talking about AR-15s in general, they've been beat like a dead horse. Tons of companies make them. Few really change anything, and to see POF come out and change some things with their AR-15s and let's say try and upgrade them and make them overbuilt and make them better for hard use, I can certainly appreciate. One of the last finer features of this rifle that I want to cover is the E-squared technology that they're using on the chamber itself with the barrel. What they've done is there's 4 micro cuts ultimately on the chamber that allow a little bit of gas leakage that ultimately leads to assistance with extraction. How would it, let's say, assist with that? It allows a little bit more pressure and assist, so you're not putting quite so much pressure back here on your bolt and your actual extractor itself. So it's very similar. There's another manufacturer that does it on the market, but what they're doing is truly unique compared to the rest of the ARs that you're seeing on the market. And it's very nice to see that they're, again, thinking of another way to assist this rifle in being, let's say, more reliable and better for hard use. And now that we've covered all the special features on this P415 Edge, let's run out on the range again. I'm going to test this thing for accuracy. I have some Hornady match ammo. I have some 77 grain stuff, 62 grain. I have a bunch of different match ammos. We'll go out there and shoot it because, again, if you're going to say a rifle has sub MOA guarantee on it, I'm going to find it, and I believe this rifle is going to be able to do it just based off the overall build quality I'm seeing right now. We're here at 100 yards now. I'm going to do some accuracy testing out of this P415. The rifle's sighted in, just using some standard XM193 type ammo, 55 grain stuff. But however, today I have some AAC 77 grain Sierra Match King tipped ammo, Hornady Match, which is actually going to be a 73 grain Frontier, which is also from Hornady. This is a 68 grain boat tail hollow point match. And then Sig Marksman, this is a 77 grain OTM ammo from them. All of these are fairly accurate ammos in general. The rifle itself is guaranteed sub MOA accuracy. Right now, I'll tell you out of the gate, it's shooting 1.5 or a little bit less, which is standard XM193, which in my opinion is absolutely fantastic because that ammo in itself generally doesn't shoot that great. So shooting these other ones, we'll check out the accuracy on there. Shoot these, I'm gonna shoot 4 3-shot groups ultimately out of, for all these ammo types. We'll go down there, check it out, and then give you guys some closing thoughts. Next up is going to be the Hornady Match ammunition. This is 73 grain ELD bullets. So these are polymer tip bullets. If you're unfamiliar with Hornady's ELD-M bullet, they are well regarded as being the most accurate factory ammunition on the market. Not always the case with ARs, but pick a bolt gun, and if it doesn't shoot the Hornady stuff good, chances are it's your gun, not the ammo. This group we're going to shoot is going to be with the SIG 77 grain OTM match ammunition. Give the rifle a few minutes here to cool down a little bit, then I'll shoot this final group. We're about partway through now shooting groups, the P415 Edge, and this POF rifle is shooting really, really well. Very happy with it thus far. I'm shooting this 1 to 10 EOTech Vudu. Pretty easy to shoot groups today. There's quite a bit of mirage because of a little bit of heat thing going on there, but overall the rifle itself, it doesn't hinder me whatsoever, I feel like, from being accurate, and I think a lot of it is due to the fact that it has an absolutely fantastic trigger that has no creep in it whatsoever, and that 3.5 pound brake is just right. The muzzle brake on it, the rifle is very soft shooting. You know, I could probably honestly shoot a 1 inch, 1.5 inch group about as fast as I can almost pull the trigger, as long as it comes back on that target, just because it shoots so well, and the recoil impulse on it is really forgiving, actually getting that next follow-up shot. And truly impressed with, I think, the rifle's ability to be an accurate rifle. And if you took one of these things and let's say you had a 20-inch barrel on it or something like that, you had a, you know, extreme DMR type rifle, it would really, really fit the bill. But even this 16-inch, really shooting these heavier grain bullets, it could definitely fit that bill as well if that's something you wanted. All right, here's your AAC. All our groups are shot now for all the different ammo types. I think from just sitting here back on the gun, I think the Frontier, the 68 grain stuff looks the best. After that, probably the Hornady stuff's pretty close, but that 68 grain boat to hollow point from Frontier is the cheapest to have all of them almost, outside of your AAC stuff, but it's shooting definitely well below a sub MOA guarantee. And what most people don't really realize with guns and sub MOA guarantees, it's not guaranteed to shoot every ammo you do sub MOA. That's not with just this rifle, that's with every rifle on the market. If you're choosing bolt guns, you're choosing precision guns like that, they're not all going to shoot sub MOA groups. You're going to have to find an ammo that's ultimately going to shoot well. And once you find that ammo, shoot that ammo out of it if you're looking for long range, distance, and accuracy type shooting. If you're shooting ammo for, you know, range use and stuff like that, find one that is fairly, you know, say accurate, but also cost effective, because if you want to practice, you're going to have to shoot. So let's run down there and check out those groups. We've got our 4 groups here. These are 1 inch circles for reference, 1 inch grid squares in addition to that. The very first group we shot here was the AAC MO 77 grain Sierra Match King tip stuff. This is your Frontier. This is going to be a 68 grain bullet. Obviously shoots absolutely fantastic. That's well below sub MOA. I mean, we're talking half MOA group with that out of a piston driven gun, which a lot of times piston driven guns don't necessarily meet accuracy that you see with your DI guns. However, this P415 Edge is showing it's a very accurate rifle with the right ammunition. So it's meeting that for me, makes me happy. Down here, Hornady Match ammunition. It's possible I shanked one, however, I don't really feel like it. And if you notice here, outside that Frontier, the groups are a little bit opened up. Let the rifle cool and things like that, no issues as far as that goes. But this is your Hornady. This is going to be a 73 grain Pro ammo, so that's going to be your polymer tip stuff. And then this one down here is that SIG ammo, which obviously shot the worst out of the bunch. So you got your Hornady, your Frontier ammo, Hornady Pro or Match, and then right here is your AAC stuff. And then that was just a 5-shot group that I shot at the end after the rifle was heated up, which it ultimately still shot a pretty darn good group, talking 1.5, 2 inch group, almost as fast as, let's say, I could come back on target and pull the trigger again. So I'm happy with accuracy on the rifle. Really, overall, this rifle is a really fantastic option for somebody looking for an accurate piston-driven gun that has all the premium features you need and nothing is missing. With everything you've seen today, group shooting, you know, shooting this thing on the move, shooting it quick, shooting it fast, running through all the features, all the premium features on here, I think POF has knocked it out of the park with this P415 Edge. And if it's something you guys really like and you want to see more POF type weapons or guns that they make, let us know. We'll try and get more of their stuff on the channel. This is the first one we've done. Super impressed with it. So again, I can't stress enough. If you like the videos, like, comment, subscribe, and let us know what you think. But most importantly, follow next time with Hunt, Fish, Shoot.